Hi, I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com, and today's flute tip is on concentration and stamina in your playing. So concentration and stamina are two areas of flute playing that we all need to work on. These are skills that you can learn. I know I can work on those. They're something that I've learned later in my performing and teaching career. They're not something that I was brought up really learning, and I wish I had. So I want to give you a few pointers that I wish I'd known in my younger years about how we can work on that. I used to think that it was really something that you just had to do. It was just a matter of willpower. And while it is a matter of willpower, there are ways that we can work on that self-control and that will in order to achieve better results. One of the ways to work on this is to make sure you know your piece cold. So I think probably the first thing that I've had to learn in my career is to know a piece better than I think. Because the moment that you are nervous or the situation that you're performing in is not optimal, then your concentration is then affected. And if you don't know your piece absolutely cold, then that's going to invite disaster or just invite flubs that you don't necessarily need to have. But if you know your piece cold, you know the tempo, you know it faster than you want to play it, you know it slower than you want to play it, then you're going to take that little bit out of the equation. The second thing that I would say is learning to play through your difficult areas, and I mean play through them. So oftentimes we take our difficult spots that cause us to flub up when we're performing, and we just work on those flubs. So we use what I call the practice process, and I use all the different articulations, and I have my metronome on, and I've learned that spot cold. But guess what? As soon as I do a playthrough with my piano player, that spot falls apart, or at least it used to. The reason why that spot then falls apart when I know it, I've learned it, I've done all the things that I need to do, is because I haven't learned mentally that I've learned it. So in my mind, it still is a difficult area. And what I have to do is erase the fact that that's a difficult area from my brain. And I have to learn to play through that. I have to make new paths from my eyes to my brain to my fingers saying, oh no, it's not a difficult spot anymore. I can play that spot. So I learned to play through that spot. So what that means is that I might start with a measure before and a measure after. This is after I've done all my woodshedding and I know that particular run or those particular measures that are tricky. And then I add a measure before and a measure after, and I learn to play through. Now I have to play it through with my metronome on because I don't want to allow myself the luxury of slowing down in those spots. But if I have the metronome on, that forces me to play through. Now, hopefully I'm up to tempo, and so I can put my metronome on the tempo, and I can play the measure before, the measure after, and I can play through that. And I can do it again and again and again. And I can do it tomorrow with my flute cold, not having warmed up, and I can play right through that spot. Because you're teaching your brain a new path through that section. Because your brain learned the path that was wrong, that it was a flub area, that you had problems. And now you have to learn that it's not a problem area. So what you want to think about is that your brain no longer says, that's my tricky spot. Your brain now says, I'm just going to play because I know this piece. I can play it all the way through. After you've done that playthrough with a measure before and a measure after, then I would go for the line above and a line afterwards. Now, you might want to say, well, what does it mean to play after that? Because as long as I've gotten through that, then I'm good. Well, again, it's teaching your brain. It's how we think and how we learn that I can play through that section. That section is no longer a problem. I no longer have to fear it. And I'm going to erase that little niggly fear that comes in when I'm performing that says that's a tricky spot. I can get through that section. After I've done that, Now's the time where I might want to do the whole page. I want to play through the whole page with a metronome on. Now, if you put that metronome on and you can play through that tricky spot, maybe another spot is revealed to you that you flub up. And then you can mark that little area and come back to it and start working on that. But it's playing from top to bottom that is going to teach you how to concentrate all the way through and not allow yourself to have those flub areas, areas that you've learned, your brain has learned are tricky spots. We want to have no tricky spots, and we want to tell our brain that there's nothing tricky about this. I just had to learn it. Once I learn it, I'm golden. Now, the best place that I've learned to really work on that concentration and really stamina as well, meaning I can make it through a tough piece, keeping my brain on track and keeping my concentration there, is through etudes. And the longer the etude, the better. So as you get through Anderson etudes, they get trickier and harder and more difficult as you go along. And there's so many notes. Sometimes you've got 2 pages, and then if you get up to the Opus 60, we can have 4 or 6 pages of etude work. If you can make it through that concentrating, you can make it through a solo that will have measures of rest and places where you can put your arms down. I think working on your etudes, I'm a big fan of etudes, but not just for technical skill and not just for learning music, but also because it really helps you to learn that concentration all the way through. Your metronome is on, you're playing straight through, you're not allowing yourself to stop on those tricky spots because you've learned them, and now your concentration is taking you through the whole piece. So that's what I would say is what we need to do with our concentration and our stamina and working on a piece of music that might have some tricky areas. It's good work, it's solid work, and you'll be happy that you've done this kind of woodshedding and this kind of concentrated work. So have fun working on your concentration, working on your stamina. That's today's flute tip.